Welcome to Research Matters with Unda and Kuda, an online show that is all about communicating the research taking place at NUST in efforts to promote the university's research agenda and the impact thereof.
It is exactly 11:15 and you know what that means right here on NUST FM. It's time for Research Matters with Unda and Kuda, and today we have an amazing guest which I will allow my co-host. Welcome back, by the way. Introduce our guest for this morning.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for welcoming me back. You know, I was double booked, a lot was happening, life was lifing.
For once, I wasn't the one missing in action. You.
Yes, but I listened to the show. I was very impressed. My colleague Joshua Hamunyela held it down.
Yeah, no, he did.
He did. So a DRIPA, which is the Directorate of Research, Innovation and Partnerships. So the team are called a bunch of drippers. So he dripped.
Just, no, he definitely did.
Thank you for having him as well. So now in studio today we have Prof Thinah Moyo. She's a lecturer and a program coordinator for the Master of Agribusiness Management right here at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. Prof, welcome to the show. Now, before I even say anything, I think we need a drum roll.
Drum
You know why
roll.
we're having a drum roll?
Why?
Because she's just recently been appointed a whole professor.
Hey,
she's going to tell us about it.
Let's get it.
Now, I know you will go into the nitty-gritty of all of it, but just tell us, how do you feel? How does it feel?
Thank you so much, NUST FM, and thank you, Kuda. Thank you, Unda, for having me here. I am grateful and delighted to be here. I don't know how it feels. I think
but
it's
you're
mixed.
smiling.
The smile probably tells it all. It's a bag of mixed feelings. One, you feel honored.
Yes.
And that gives you a lot of joy and excitement to know that the institution saw it fit to appreciate you. So I am really grateful for that gesture. At the same time, like I said, it's a mixed feelings bag. At the same time, you're thinking, okay, it's a step up.
Yes.
So I should step up. In a nutshell, that's how I feel.
That's awesome. Now, I just went right for it right there. Now we're going to reverse a little bit real quick. And this is always difficult for a lot of people when I say real quick. Just tell us who you are. Just a little bit of your background and how you got to the prof level. Real quick.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. For me to speak about myself, who I am. So, Thinah. I believe you heard the way I pronounce my name. Thinah, not Tina.
Yeah, because, okay. Thinah.
Thinah. It's a vernacular name. You'll soon hear which vernac. It means us. Okay? So Thinah is a born-again child of God who was born in Gwanda in the mid-70s. Okay? Gwanda is in Matabeleland South in Zimbabwe. I'm born of a Venda mother and Ndebele father. I'm born in Gwanda, and my daughters like calling me Gwanda's finest. Well, they can explain that to you. They can explain that themselves. Yes. I am the second of 4 children. I am the eldest girl in the family. So being born in Gwanda, I went to a primary school called Sukwe. And while there in primary school, when I was in grade 3, I think the school management, they did what they needed to do or they saw fit to do at that time. They called me into a classroom where the grade 5 learners were. I was in grade 3, by the way. They called me into a classroom where the grade 5 learners were. And without prior warning, I was just called in. Went in there, and the teacher said to me, "May you please tell the grade 5 learners the name of the string that we use to tie our shoes." What is the name of a string that we use to tie our shoes? So I immediately I said, it's a shoelace.
Yeah.
Then he had brought in other teachers as well. They were standing at the back. And everybody was clapping that I got shoelace correctly. But I thought, what?
Isn't this obvious?
Isn't this obvious?
Yeah.
Apparently, they then explained to me that the grade 5 learners didn't know the name of that string. Wow. So I think the school, later I realized, this was the school's way of communicating to everybody else, including the learners, that Thinah is skipping grade 4. She's moving from grade 3 to grade 5.
My goodness.
Because she knows certain things that grade 5 learners don't know, even though she's in grade 3. Then that's how I moved to grade 5. I did not go to grade 4.
Wasn't that overwhelming?
Wow.
It was overwhelming.
Yeah, but you adjusted quickly.
I was a child, so excitement sets in.
Yeah.
And you are now with the big learners, but you adjust. But with all the support, yes, I managed to get through until now. I didn't have to go back to do grade 4.
Imagine if they said, whoa.
You went through grade 4. I don't have to do that.
Yes, then thereafter, of course, secondary school set in. I went to a high school called Manama High School. It's also in Matabeleland South, and that's where my father actually went. That was my father's former school. While I was there in Form 4, I and a few students who loved mathematics, we established what was called a mathematics club. And every Friday afternoon, we would spend our afternoon just enjoying maths. The mathematics club was running.
It's so odd.
Math.
I don't know of any children who enjoyed it. Like, you had to get them to do.
Yeah, somehow it happened.
Yeah.
And thereafter, for A-level, advanced level, I changed schools. I moved to Matopo High School. And this was upon recommendation by my father, because he said Matopo High School, according to his assessment at that time, Matopo High School was more science-oriented than Manama, so I could go do my A-level there. So then I went there, joined the school for the 2 years, advanced level years. And as I entered the school, I received a Canadian scholarship. That scholarship was given to the best science student who came in to A-level. So you come in with the best science subjects from your O-level. Yes, so I got that Canadian scholarship. So it meant my father did not have to pay school fees for me anymore. And then while at Matopo, I was also the school captain. I think normally they're called school head girls.
Yeah.
Yes, the school called them captains. I was the school captain. Then when I was done with my A-level, I then joined the University of Zimbabwe, where I exited with an honors degree in agricultural economics. So agricultural economics is what I specialized in. And fast forward, when I exited with an honors, I joined the CSO, Central Statistical Office, working as an enumerator or data collector. CSO is an equivalent of the NSA in Namibia, the Namibian Statistics Agency. Yeah. So I worked there on a specific research project. It wasn't just an ordinary employment. It was me and a few others who were employed at the same time to conduct research on demography and health. It was USAID funded. So we were on that project, and it was quite an exciting journey. Young and being in this prestigious project, it was quite good. And then later I joined ICRISAT. After that, I joined ICRISAT, the International Crop Research Institute of the Semi-Arid Tropics. I worked for ICRISAT. It's a research institute. So the journey, the research was really, it was building on. And it was actually very research intensive, since it was a research institute. And it's part of the CGIR group of research institutes. So for 5 years I was there. While at ICRISAT, I was specifically working on projects around SAT futures. SAT futures mean semi-arid tropics. That's the SAT. So it's the future of the semi-arid tropics. Little did I know at that time that I would work in an arid country like Namibia. Yes, sometimes I look back.
So, Prof, you're going to just have to break it down for us. You said
semi-arid tropics.
In very simple terms, what does that mean?
Okay. So in tropical regions, rainfall will differ from region to region. Now, rainfall defines agroecological regions. And some agricultural regions are high rainfall regions, some are middle level rainfall regions, some are drier. Like Namibia is a drier region, hence we call it an arid region. This one is semi-arid, slightly higher than Namibia. So ICRISAT had that part where you would work on projects that focused on developing research and also innovations for the semi-arid tropical countries. That's where I was. And there we then had to focus on small grains. You'd understand that small grains like sorghum, millet, or pearl millet, both pearl millet and the other millet, are drought-tolerant crops. So that was our main, those were our main crops, including legumes, groundnuts, and pigeon peas at that time. And then, still at ICRISAT, I worked for a project called Desert Margins.
Desert margins.
Desert margins.
So was this your wayfinding your way to Namibia?
I don't know.
I'm waiting. I'm eagerly waiting
Yes.
for how did we get to Namibia?
Exactly. So I didn't know at that moment that I would eventually land in Namibia. But look at how the preparatory work was going on at that time.
The universe was literally aligning itself.
Exactly.
Right?
The universe was aligning itself. So I worked for Desert Margins, and within the Desert Margins project, we were also looking at crop livestock interactions. So how crops and livestock interact in a communal setup. Without going too deep into it, but I would just want to give you an overview of how it works. Communal farmers produce both crops and livestock. Now, within that ecosystem, farmers are also taught to use the livestock stover or the residue to feed livestock. They're told, feed your livestock using crop stover or crop residue. At the same time, they're also told, take the crop residue and use it to cover your soil for moisture retention. So use it as a mulch. So now, the same farmers. So which one should we go for? Which one do you choose? Exactly. So that's what our project was all about. And we would then look at the pros and cons, merits and demerits of each of the two, and then teach the farmers what was the best practice. Yes, so basically that was what we were doing. And then thereafter, after ICRISAT, I left for further studies, joined the University of Pretoria for my master degree then. And at the University of Pretoria, while I was doing my master's, I was hired by the university as a research assistant. So I worked as a research assistant while completing my master's. And as a research assistant, I worked for the postgraduate school of agriculture. And that was very nice, although you had to balance work with school. However, I'm grateful that I could complete successfully my master's successfully within the time frame, and as I completed within the time frame, and while completing, I immediately saw, I'm within the university. Why not just immediately register for a PhD? So I immediately registered for a PhD, and while doing my PhD, the university hired me again. You are hired as a research assistant. You are told, okay, there's a vacancy here. Are you interested? So I took up a position as a project coordinator, researcher, and lecturer at the same time, because the project that I had to coordinate, it was funded by the Flanders, the Flemish government, and it was out of a proposal or research grant that I was part of writing. So then the department just saw it fit that I coordinate the project within the department. It was a 3-year project. And of course, a few years went by. I completed my PhD. When I completed, I also got what we call a Golden Key Award.
Just.
It is an honor society.
There's such a flex, Prof.
I love
like I feel like your life was just cruising. Everything, fell into place for you. It's great.
We need to know the secrets and the ingredients to this success. We love it.
Thank you very much. So then, fast forward, I stayed at the University of Pretoria until 2018 when I left and joined NUST. Well, joining NUST, I must say that before I joined NUST, I didn't really know Namibia very well. I had only been to Namibia once in 2008. When I came in and out, it was a quick in and out. I had attended a conference, an IESA conference at the Safari Hotel then, today the Mecca Hotel.
Yeah. Yes.
So it was a quick in and out. So I didn't really know Windhoek, neither did I know Namibia. But 2018, then I came here, joined the university, Namibia University of Science and Technology, as a senior lecturer. And the rest is, as was mentioned by Kuda when she introduced me. So that's the journey. And then 5 years, or let me say 6 years later, after joining NUST, I am finding myself having been honored with the title of a professor. So I think that's Thinah.
In a
Are
nutshell.
we saying it right?
Questions.
Say it, Unda.
Thinah.
Thinah, she got it right.
Thinah.
Yeah, you
Okay.
got it.
I was a bit nervous there.
All right, but Prof, maybe let's look at, you've spoken vastly about some of the research projects that you've conducted in the past, and I see now that you have research interest in the areas of smallholder farmer developments and market participation and so forth. Maybe you can then just break it down to the listeners and to Kuda and I in terms of what that really entails.
Thank you very much.
No.
So, in fact, my passion lies in smallholder farmer development and linking farmers to markets. That's where my passion lies. And that passion has been fueled by the interactions I've had with smallholder farmers. Since I started working for ICRISAT particularly, because at ICRISAT we would work with smallholder farmers, communal farmers.
Yes.
And we would encourage them to grow those types of crops that would do well in their environments. And if a crop does well, you are able to produce for home consumption and also sell surplus. So we would always say to the farmers, how can you generate income using the resources that you have and from the produce that comes out of your farm? And then we link them to markets. So we started linking farmers at that time at ICRISAT. We would link farmers to small grains markets where they could sell a bucket of pearl millet, a bucket of sorghum, a bucket of pigeon pea, a bucket of groundnuts. You know, at that scale, we wouldn't talk about tons, but the little that the farmer could sell, we would make sure there's a market for it, for them to generate the income that they need to meet other household income demands. So that is where my passion lies. And I've always said to myself, you know, even to people that I speak to, I conduct what we call science with the human face. Because you want to see the people in your science. You want to see the beneficiaries in what you do. So all the projects, the impact that your research actually makes in a human being and their life. And it's very satisfying to see farmers moving from where you found them, not knowing where to sell whatever they get, and it rots in the barns, to them going to the market, and they make money, and you see them accumulating assets over time. It has been satisfying. So there I've seen the impact of my research in a long time.
Yes, if I can just jump in right there. I think that is so profound when you can actually see a face and a story being told and someone walking a little bit taller because things are really looking up. And I can imagine, you know, when I think of just off the top of my head, when I think of commercialization in the farming space, I'm never thinking of a bucket. I'm thinking tons. I'm thinking this. But obviously, the smallholder farmer needs to be protected, right? Someone needs to speak for the little guys. So,
Exactly.
yeah, that's
Exactly.
great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for appreciating that kind of effort, because the journey has been very, very satisfying. And you also see the farmers' children who could not go to good schools because the parents could not afford school fees. Now they are able to go to good schools because the mother or the father has been selling grain, and that money went towards school fees, and the child could go to school.
And now they're jumping grade 4.
And
Hopefully they are.
I believe some have jumped grade 4. Some have jumped grade 4. So you might ask me a question, how do you get to know? So because I'm an agriculture economist, I'm a social economist. So I'm into the softer sciences. You'll understand that we do the science, we also check the impact. So we conduct impact assessments. So you go back, you conduct an impact assessment so that you see and evaluate the impact that your research has had on the community that you worked in. So those impact assessments then give you all these results, and they give you an opportunity to go and meet with the farmers that you initially, were working with, telling them, may you grow this type of crop, may you please practice agriculture in this way. Then you go back and assess the impact. Yeah. So that's how we get to know. And in Namibia, just to come closer to where we are now, we are currently busy with a project that is funded by the SADC Secretariat, and it is funded via the Agricultural Research Council of South Africa. It's a collaboration of 4 countries. There is Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Swaziland. So I am the PI of the Namibian part of it. And there we are assessing the vulnerability of food systems. So you see, it's food systems. We are speaking households, we are speaking people, we are speaking production of food, both on a communal basis and also on a commercial basis, because we look at food on the shelves as well. And how are the food systems? What is the dynamic? What is that dynamic that is driving the food systems in Namibia? And what is the extent of vulnerability, looking at all factors that could potentially affect food systems, including climate change, and all the way down to willingness of the farmers to practice certain types of agricultural practices, such as conservation agriculture, and so on and so on. Yeah, so that's what we are busy with now.
Okay, that is absolutely quite a lot of information, and very interesting to just see the different dynamics in everything that she does. It's not only the agricultural space, but the faces behind all of it, right? So now, Prof, obviously when you, with the work that you're involved in, and I'm sure it takes you to different farming regions and so forth, what would you say are some of the, now we spoke already about the community engagement and so forth, but what would you say that comes to mind, some of the most recent memorable moments that you've had in the communities, but whether you're working with students or with various stakeholders, something that you just say, okay, I remember this one, it speaks to my heart.
Yes, thank you, Kuda. Very interesting, because when you work with people, you're actually also living your life. You're not just doing work. You are living your life with them. So I've been exposed to quite a diverse type of people, because communities across countries will be different, and you learn in the process. I think at this juncture, I must mention to you the countries that I've worked in, and then you can picture the different cultures and types of people and types of farmers that I have met. I have worked, of course, in Zimbabwe, and then I worked also in Malawi with groundnut and pigeon pea farmers. I worked also in South Africa with irrigation farmers, both irrigation scheme and independent irrigators. I'm now working in Namibia with farmers that produce livestock, and also those that farm with crops. So my experiences will span across all that spectrum of the types of farmers. And I have been to situations where you meet a farmer, you are speaking to them, and they are wondering, what you are telling me I've never heard of. What is this? This is completely new to me. And sometimes we expect that the farmers will react in that way. Sometimes we do not. We actually assume they already know. So in situations where the farmer is completely stunned by what you are bringing up, you check whether they are willing to learn this new innovation you are bringing to them, or they are completely going to say, I'm not ready for change, because you meet those who would say, I can hear you.
My practices have worked, but I'm not open to new ones.
I want to stick to what I know works. As much as you're telling me what you're bringing to me works, but I'm skeptical. So they stay hands off. The trust issues jump in there, and they stay hands off. So those are some of the issues that you'll sit there and wonder, what other approach can I use? But there are instances where you just see that, okay, I'll leave the knowledge with the farmer. They can then decide on their own when they want to adopt this. If they're not ready, they are not ready. They'll probably be ready one day. That's one. Second incidents that I can mention is when I went to, for the first time, met with the communities in Namibia that are at the northwestern part of Namibia, the Himba community. And they are livestock producers, they are pastoralists. I was working with the pastoralists for the first time in my entire professional research career. And one time, I'm reminded and I'm laughing because one of the things that we experienced there, it still comes back and traumatizes to a certain extent. So we met the farmers. One season we met the farmers, spoke to them, and they were willing to work with us, whatever we had taken to them. And we also taught them on how to sell their livestock. Off-take rates, that language, economics language, off-take rates, how many animals you can take off to the market in a season so that if drought strikes, you don't lose all your animals to drought. If you lose to drought, it's really a big loss, but rather sell, keep your money in the bank, that kind of conversations. Yeah. We had those conversations, it was successful. And then we said, we'll revisit, we'll come back again the next season. Now, when we went back the next season, we knew where the farmers are. When we went back, we didn't find them. They are pastoralists. They had moved with their livestock to another place. But we were told where they were.
Yeah.
However, where they were was across a mountain. It was on the other side of the mountain. And with our project cars, we now had to figure out, with the students, how do we get to where the farmers are. And we had to drive up a mountain. 4x4 driving up a mountain. We took videos of that. Okay, personally, I must say that, in fact, that's where the highlight is. I could not drive the car up a mountain.
Oh my gosh.
I failed to drive a car up a mountain.
As long as it didn't roll back or
yes, and out of fear, and also driven by the fact that I didn't have any experience in such.
Yes.
So this was something I was learning and being exposed to
like
for
I
the
studied
first time.
A, B, C, and D. It was
not latest didn't have a hill that's high.
Driving or whatever.
Yes.
Oh wow.
It was nice though because within the team we had the brave ones who drove us across the mountain. You could see yourself really going up and then down the other side. That was a learning experience for me. Yeah. And we found the farmers. We had fun, worked together. We still had to drive up the mountain and down
the same route.
So,
oh wow,
very, very interesting. And then we, in the same area, these are pastoralists. We were able to introduce something new successfully, a vegetable garden, which they could plant themselves, of course, for home consumption, to extend their diet, meat plus vegetables. And we got that garden started, and I want to believe it's still running. Yeah. And water is there from the Gunene River, so water was not a problem. And we got the farmers to start with the gardening, and I want to believe that the garden is still there, just for their diet to be supplemented with vegetables. So those are some of the things. I'm just giving you examples of the recent experiences.
Yeah.
But I mean, one can write a book about their experiences and what they learn from the farmers over time. Thank you.
Now, Prof, how often do you go back after the projects? This is just for curiosity's sake. Do you have projects that run for, let's say, 2-3 years, and in that time you go back, every other time? Or is it those once-off projects, and once you have the farmers up and running, you sort of just leave them to do their thing?
That's a very good question, because that is where I think the gist of research actually lies. Whether or not we are able as researchers to do follow-ups, and whether or not as researchers we are able to speak to the beneficiaries of our work, and also give them feedback on what we took out of them, how we used that information. So over time in my career, we have had a mix of project types. There are certain projects that we have the privilege of building in evaluations. By evaluations, I mean it could be midterm. So in the middle of a project, you are able to go back and say, okay, let's evaluate ourselves midstream before we complete. Let's stop and evaluate how we have performed. So for some projects, we have the privilege to do that. And it's actually very good. For some projects, there's also a privilege of doing a post-project evaluation where there's an end date to the project, and you say, okay, after the end date, there is still funding that we actually built into the budget to go and evaluate our impact, and also speak to the farmers, get feedback from them on how they were after we left. How have they been after we left? And then, of course, there are certain projects that wouldn't have that leeway, allowing us to go back. For those, it's a pity. However, if an opportunity comes after 3 years, 5 years post the project termination, we always build in an impact assessment study. Then that is called an impact assessment. It's no longer an evaluation. It's an impact assessment. And by that time, you also want to try and attribute whatever you find in the community. You try and look for what you can attribute to the project, because a lot of things have happened after you left. Farmers, if you might find a farmer now owns a scotch cart or a car or a wheelbarrow, and they didn't have it before. It's not always obvious that is because of your project. So you need to always, within your impact assessment instrument, pick out and attribute what actually comes out of the project impact, not just generalize.
I think that is heartwarming to hear that when the opportunity presents itself, you are able to go back and do these impact studies. Before we take a musical break, maybe I can just lean towards the technological advancements that you might have experienced in your agricultural sector, because when we speak to different people in studio, they have, various
tech experiences.
Yes, that they now encounter in their fields, and maybe that are different from what they used to do before and how they're handling it now. What would you say yours are?
Very interesting indeed, because if you hear my children speak, sometimes they will tell you I'm old school, because I don't belong to their generation, right? And that also comes into our career, because the things we used to do, or the way we used to do things those years, it's not the same way we are doing things now. Okay? And speaking of which is, I was exposed to, what did we call it? For counting livestock.
So essentially there was lack of a better term, an old school way of doing it, and now things are different?
Things are different now. Just counting your livestock. Because, previously, livestock was counted manually. You have to go there, bring your animals, count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when you ask a farmer how many cattle they have, they just have to stand on something, elevate themselves and count 1, 2 cows, 1 bull, 2 bulls, and so on. Now there was a different way of doing it. Of course, it wasn't my project that introduced it, but when you ask farmers, how many cattle do you have? They have it documented because some other project had come and said, okay, we counted your cattle while they were in the veld. They didn't have to be brought into the kraal.
That would have been with drones or...
Yes, it was aerial, yes.
Okay.
Aerial. And it was a technology that I thought, oh, wow, mind-blowing. Yeah. So we come in, we want to know how many cattle the farmers have. And farmers don't have to say, okay, come tomorrow after I've brought all my cattle. They go back to, the cattle were counted on such and such a day. And this is the document that I have. And this is, of course, it gives an estimation, like you could actually pick out. The physical way, I could say, would be more exact and more accurate. This one, what if you count Kuda's cow that joined my head today? You can tell the branding. You'll count it in. But to a certain extent, that helps, because then cattle can be kept in the veld, in the rangeland, rather than be brought in just to count. Yes. So that's, I think, was a highlight for me, technology-wise.
All right. We'll take a musical break at this juncture, but we'll be back because Miss Thinah, or Prof Thinah, will still be here. I hope so. Prof will still be here in studio. So do stick and stay to NUST FM, where we are reinventing sound.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you are listening to Unda and Kuda right here on NUST FM, and we are live in studio with Prof Thinah Moyo. She's a senior lecturer and program coordinator of the Master of Agribusiness Management right here at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. Prof, as tradition, each time we listen to a song, we must ask our guest what inspired you to choose that song. Why that song? Any story behind it?
That song speaks to me and my life, particularly as a believer in Christ Jesus. And when I reflect back in my life, I just see Christ. I see Jesus. So I've lived in the goodness of the Lord, so to speak.
Amen.
That's just in a nutshell. So therefore, I want to always bring praise to his name. Ngileta udumo esihlalweni from that song, these lyrics of that song. It means I bring praise to the throne.
How do you say that?
Ngileta udumo esihlalweni.
Sounds beautiful.
Sure.
Yeah, and deep.
Yeah, and very deep.
Now, right back to it, Prof, back to your work. What would you say are some of the biggest threats to the agriculture sector, whether it's climate change, drought? Just, if I really have to just cast the net really wide, how do we mitigate some of these challenges? Say if we talk about drought, especially what's happening in Namibia right now.
That's a very important question because we find ourselves at crossroads. And the crossroads, it's an entanglement of the natural environment that's changing on us.
Yeah.
We don't have any control over it, and climate change is such. And we find ourselves also facing shocks such as what we recently experienced, the COVID-19 pandemic. That was also another one. It hit the agricultural sector heavily. We find ourselves also facing technological related challenges which are linked to how farmers need to actually step up and produce in different ways rather than traditional ways, producing and also adding value to their produce. We find ourselves there. So over and above, we need to mitigate. Like you're asking, how do we then mitigate all these effects? We are aware of the challenges, but then how do we mitigate the effects of these challenges? So my answer to that would be we need to first of all start with teaching the farmers. Just creating awareness, first of all, about what is happening around them. We should never assume that the farmers fully understand what they experience or fully understand what they see happening. So it is, therefore, our responsibility as those who are informed to go back to the farmers and say, colleagues, we work together all the time. We were producing in this way. Look, now we may not continue in the same way. Let's change our ways. And one of the ways is just to adopt crop types, livestock types that are adapted to climate change. And I'm sure you've heard about climate smart agriculture. We need to go climate smart, meaning you just do what the climate changed conditions will allow.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Don't resist the change.
Yeah.
But it's only, it takes education, it takes training for farmers to change and adapt. So adaptation is the word. As we adapt, we also want to build resilience among our farmers because adaptation has a time span. You adapt. Today, you tell yourself, okay, there's less rainfall, there's a drought, and therefore I'm going to take up measures to probably grow drought-tolerant crops and bring in, slaughter all my, not slaughter, but now cull. Culling, you're actually really killing all of them. Cull all my animals, not have animals, I will only bring them in when the season changes or when the weather actually improves. But you can't stay like that forever. So
Because
there's a
the
time
climate will
span
change
to
again.
adaptation.
Yeah.
You get tired. So hence resilience building is key. How do we do that? The farmers then need to really appreciate the fact that the environment we are living in is completely different from the environment they were in before, and they will not go back to where they were before. Therefore, it's a completely new way of living life, a completely new way of doing agriculture. Then you build resilience in them. They will start investing in those technologies that are sold to them, the new varieties of crops, the new types of animals. If ever you have to keep animals, it might be a situation where you should not keep animals anymore, but rather go for the alternative protein sources, such as what is locally available. We once spoke about bringing up insects as a source of protein rather than your cattle, goats, sheep, and chickens that you are used to.
The heroes are shaking.
Let's go for the insects.
The heroes are shaking. They're like, no meat?
I know.
How will we survive?
Yes, I know. And these are the things that we have communicated to some communities about. And they shake because this is completely new. But that's exactly how we should do it. Slowly but surely we will get there, but educate the farmers, make them aware of what is happening, and also make them aware of where we are going. They need to understand the trajectory and not keep hoping that we will still have the life we used to have. So that is one way of mitigating by adaptation and resilience building. And there are many ways that that can be done. So now we find ourselves in a crossroads because while that is fair and good to do, funding is not always available to do it. Funding is always a right-hand constraint. So you might have all the things written down and looking good, but how to implement it is another constraint that we always face as researchers and also as development practitioners, because you want to transform the livelihoods of farmers out there. So money is an issue. However, I have, as a researcher, I have passion in writing research grants. I write research grants. If I see an idea, I would want to write a research grant and look for who potentially could fund us, then send it out. Although I must say that with the funding grants that I've written, it has not always been all bells and whistles.
Of course.
Some are unsuccessful.
And you're hurt.
And you are hurt. And you're thinking, this is a good idea. Why can't they get it?
Exactly. Why are they not getting me?
Maybe you need to explain it in person. So attach a video next time to the writing.
Yes. But however, there are some that have been successful. So we are grateful that we can get certain innovations out to the farmers and get the farmers to adapt to climate change and use alternative ways of producing food, and also alternative ways of just preserving the food that they produce, and also in of course the market. Getting to the markets. Don't keep everything within your bands. You don't have what the storage that your produce actually requires. Sell it off, keep the money.
So to be strategic and just to really look at things from a perspective where you can eat, right? At the end of the day.
Secure the bag.
Secure the bag.
Yeah. Now, Prof, with everything that you have on your plate, and I know there's probably a lot more on that plate than we can even imagine, what are your coping mechanisms, or how do you balance all of it to make sure that you still have some parts of yourself, outside of the academic and the research and so forth?
Where Thinah can be Thinah.
Yes.
Thinah is Thinah, I think, everywhere. I will refer to one of the statements I made, that when I work with the farmers, I also feel like I'm living my life. So I count those days as life lived as well. So, but if I'm away from the farmers, I'm with my family. I have a very good and loving family. I'm happily married, and we have daughters. And when I'm home, it's really down tools and fun. So there are things that make me happy when I'm at home, like dancing to the music that I love. One of which is what I shared with you, and there's another one, and there are others. So I live my life in a very relaxed manner. We
can tell. Even as you were speaking, I'm like, she's so grounded. We might as well have elevator music in the background. So grounded. Love it.
Thank you. So that's how I live life, I think, and try and make sure that it's not stress controlled. There's no predominance of stress, but rather light and continual, because the life is still long ahead of me. So I think.
No, I absolutely love that. And I think just really what I'm getting from that is just to have this wholesome life experience, fall in love with what you do.
Yes.
Fall in love with the right partner. She also mentioned a partner. And just having family, just having that support unit, and spiritually as well. So you need to be nourished in different spaces in your life. So not only academically, not only career-wise, but spiritually and family.
Yes.
I love that.
Thank you.
Now, where to from here, Prof? You know, research is all about solving problems and all of that. Where to from here? We've just taken up the Prof title. What is that next thing that you're like, okay, this is where we're headed to now? Earlier on, very early in the show, you spoke about stepping up. So where are we stepping up to?
Thank you for that question, because to be frank with you, I'm very happy with the space that I'm in, because there are a lot of possibilities in it. What I've been busy with is not ended. It's ongoing work. So I'm part of projects that are ongoing. Okay, I mentioned the SADC-funded one. Let me not go back to it. I also want to mention my involvement within the wider Africa space, the African Union. I'm involved in the CADIP. I will define CADIP for you. I'm involved in CADIP processes, the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program. It's an Africa-wide agenda, and it's been ongoing for many, many years. And I had the privilege to be involved with it since 2011, and until now I'm there, but I've attained the role of being an expert in the team, particularly within the SADC region. So within that, there is funding that can come along.
We love that. We love funding.
There is funding that can come along. And currently, we are writing the CADIP agenda post-Malabo. It's another phase, because the CADIP agenda has phases. I'm part of the team that's writing the CADIP agenda post-Malabo. And as I write it, I also put in, what works for me and what works for the nation, Namibia, what works for the region, the SADC region, and so on and so on. So within that space, when we get to a point of getting the funding, we will be able to use the funding for more research, touching more lives, impacting more smallholder farmer lives, and also just within the university, extending scholarships to students, which is something that we have been doing. We have, in the past 5 years, now 6th year, been able to extend 5, if I'm not mistaken, 5 scholarships. In fact, 6, 4 master study scholarships and 2 PhD scholarships to students at NUST through grants funding from different institutions. And that's where I see myself, I would like really to build my profile around the African Union or CADIP agenda and bring in more research around that area and bring in more student research in it with scholarship in it, and also get students to participate more in conferences, international and local conferences. And that's something that we have started already, but we can just build on and work more on it and get more students involved. So that is my next step. Yes, as I step up. Continuity.
Yeah. I like that. Now, before I pass on the mic to Unda, I just want to say that was just so profound. Prof being the emphasis of that word. Did you see what you did there? Thank you. Profound. Thank you.
All right. Now, Prof, thank you so much for, joining us in studio and having taken the time out of your very busy schedule. And I don't know if, you said you love what you do, but you need to put the pen down more. But yes, no, it was an absolute pleasure getting to hear all that insight and knowledge that you carry. And Kuda and I think we were just honored to learn during this process. But for those that have not checked out any of the researchers, you can, or research podcasts, you can do that on our YouTube channel. For more details on the next podcast of Research Matters with Unda and Kuda, you can follow the Research, Innovation and Partnerships at NUST pages on Facebook and LinkedIn. as well as the NUST FM Facebook page and Instagram. All podcasts, again, are available on the NUST YouTube channel, so you can catch up on all of that and catch this one as well. But again, it has been a pleasure, and Prof, thank you so much again for joining us. And I'll leave you the sounds of Goodness of God, and this is by CC Winers. Do stick and stay to NUST FM.